the Social Millennial Podcast. Gang, gang. They're playing some music outside. Y'all are probably gonna hear the sounds of NYC. The ding, dong, ding, dong, ding, go, ding, dong, ding, go, ding, dong, ding. You feel me? But it is what it is. We out here, crazy week. COVID's still out here. They talking about opening schools, not opening schools. The talk is all over the place. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, and it's been wild for months and months and months and months and months and months. It's been wild for 2020. We're past the halfway mark. I feel like it can't get any crazier than this, but it's an election year and it's about to get crazy. Kanye, as far as I can tell, according to Deadline, has already filed some of the official paperwork to get him, or at least get his name on certain ballots. He missed it, or his team missed it, I should say, in certain states. For better or for worse, be that what it may, I'm not really going to get into that whole conspiracy theory, that whole idea about taking votes away from Biden and so on and so forth. I'm not going to touch on that on this podcast. Maybe in the future, but I'm not going to touch it. In news, news happening every single day, every single week. What I'm going to touch on today is Nick Cannon. What's going down, fam? What's good, as we say in the streets? What's good, Nick Cannon? The bombshell was dropped this week that Nick Cannon's contract, I guess, has been dissolved. They've released him from his contract. The board voted at Viacom, and as of now, he's done with Viacom. Now, this marks the end of a decades long relationship. I did not know that he was the chair of Team Nick for a long time. I had no idea. This dude, Nick Cannon, talk about a savvy businessman. This dude is making royalties in certain places, producing, creating certain shows, wilding out, hosting, and has a quote unquote desk job role, desk job money as the chair of XYZ. This dude is doing his thing. Say what you want to say about him getting married to Mariah and getting divorced. Say what y'all want to say, but it cannot be taken away from him that he is a savvy businessman. He has made a lot of the right moves for his career. It may not be the moves that he wanted to make, or by he wanted to make, I mean, it may not have gotten him sort of the street credibility that it sometimes seems like he wants. He was never popping in the hood. Never ever was he ever popping. Never ever was he ever any of his songs ever fire. I think only for one. And even then it was I don't know about that. Nick Cannon is less hood or less popping than Will Smith in the hood. For real. At least that's my hot take. Nick Cannon is on a whole lower rung than Will Smith in terms of street cred, and Will Smith does not have street cred. But Will Smith is the kind of guy that doesn't care about street cred. He doesn't necessarily want it. He doesn't try to get it. He knows what he is. He knows what he is, and he does what he does. Nick Cannon sometimes, especially with this podcast that he has going on now, it seems like he's trying to find his way back into the public hip hop consciousness, trying to get in with the people in a way that he was not before and try to get that credibility. I know he's had a few DJ Vlad interviews and so on, but yeah, his credit isn't there. But this dude, I ended up listening to the podcast. This is all coming off of a podcast, or what he said during his podcast. I'm forgetting who his guest was, but he started talking about the Jews and started talking about certain kinds of histories and interpretations of histories, and it started to sound a little like Hebrew Israelite teaching, Nation of Islam teaching. It started to sort of veer there. He was wording things a certain way, and it sounded funny. I chalk it up because I don't believe Nick Cannon is an unsmart person, is an unintelligent individual. I believe he is a highly intelligent individual. He just graduated from Howard University. Kudos to him, which is amazing. But I think I chalk it up to him just trying to impress his guest, really, and really just trying to drop some kind of knowledge and trying to get in with the credibility. He worded things a certain way. I feel like he could have worded it a little bit better. It does sound like Hebrew Israelite stuff. It did sound like Nation of Islam stuff. And not necessarily that it's wild stuff. You know, I don't prescribe to those belief systems. But I think he just got caught up. I think that's what happened. I don't know if he thought he was untouchable or he thought he could do or say anything that he wanted on his podcast and there would be no ramifications in terms of his Viacom deals that have been going on for a long, long time. But I think he just got caught up. He was in the moment. He got intense and just worded certain things a certain way. And it was just not good. It wasn't pretty. Any way you slice it, from hearing what he actually said, hearing the quotes, hearing the sound bites, listening to the whole episode, so hearing the sound bites in context, it was horrible. It's cringy, to say the least. Cringy, to say the least. He got caught up, and Viacom killed their relationship with him. Now, this podcast happened a little while ago. So Viacom had time to to gestate with what was going on and to kind of figure out what their actions were going to be, what the board was going to do regarding Nick Cannon talking about the Jews in the way that he was talking about them, and their relation to history in relation to Africans and African Americans and so on. Word on the street is, from the grapevine, I've heard it trickle down from the grapevine, this is not a gossip. This is definitely not, and I stand fervently on that, definitely not a gossip podcast. But I know in that time that podcast happened, and the board had to deliberate probably a few times to figure out what they were going to do about Nick Cannon, that Nick Cannon had to have been notified. Nick Cannon, being the cash cow that Nick Cannon has been for them, and sort of the clutch artist that Nick Cannon has been for Viacom regarding Nickelodeon, a lot of other shows. Like, he's very much so available and keeps his head on a swivel to host certain things. It's not just, and it seems like the media or certain corners of the media are playing it like, big bad Viacom. Nick Cannon has brought Viacom money. Nick Cannon has produced. He's been there. He's been the guy in the seat. He's been the guy making calls behind and in front of the camera, creating, producing. So I feel like they must have reached out to him in that time for an apology, for some kind of explanation. And I feel like he just didn't do it. I heard from the grapevine that he was approached. He was asked to apologize or to clarify, and he decided not to. Maybe it was something about selling out or what have you. That street cred that he's so lusting after with this podcast. And it just happened. Now, what was interesting, and what also leads me to believe that something like this happened, or it's plausible, is that when Nick Cannon started, so in the aftermath of the news breaking that Viacom broke with Nick Cannon, he then issues a statement, Facebook post or what have you, social media, talking about, sort of trying to smooth it out a little bit. It's not really an apology, but he tries to smooth things out. And then demands the rights to Wildin' Out. And then after that statement, then the next statement that drops from Nick Cannon or his camp or whomever, his publicist, whatever PR person, is accusatory. It's accusing Viacom of acting a certain way towards him and bullying and not giving him a chance, or that he reached out to the chair or what have you and they didn't respond to him, and so on and so forth. Now, oftentimes when these kinds of accusations get hurled, and places like, or publications like Variety, who are, running the story, they do their write-ups, go for comment. They reach out to the company for comment. Oftentimes it is that the company is going to is not going to be available. They're not going to return calls. They're not going to give a comment. In this case, Variety went and talked to Viacom, and they immediately put out a statement and responded to Variety like, fam, that is 100% not the truth. It is false. We never received any messages from Nick Cannon. Like for real. The tea was getting spilt. Now, I do not believe in cancel culture. I do not condone cancel culture within reason, because I know that if certain voices are volatile, there are freedoms that are allotted for that kind of speak, but there are lines that are drawn when it comes to certain kinds of discrimination, certain kinds of calls to violence, and so on. I don't know how Nick Cannon's contract reads in terms of making sure that his conduct is reflective of the values of Viacom and its respective properties under the Viacom umbrella. Don't know what it says explicitly, but if the board was able to vote, to deliberate and have a vote and kill this contract and part ways with Nick Cannon, I would wager that their legal department, Viacom is a multinational corporation. I assume that their legal department is going to be A1, that their legal department gave the okay that they can do it. And in terms of Nick Cannon getting the rights to Wild 'N Out, it was interesting. He was asking them to just hand him the rights to Wild 'N Out. That leads me to believe that he does not own Wild 'N Out, unfortunately. Whatever their contract was in him producing or creating shows and content under the Viacom umbrella, Nick Cannon does not own it. He may have produced it under his production company, but he doesn't own it, and that's a little bit sad. It's a little bit sad. I would hate to see Wild 'N Out go. A lot of comedians, a lot of comedic actors and actresses are ostensibly now out of the job. A lot of incoming talent for new seasons are ostensibly out of the job. We got to stay tuned and see what happens. I'm wondering if Nick Cannon is thinking about trying to sue Viacom for Wild 'N Out. I don't really know what's going to happen, but I believe in my heart of hearts, no real corroboration. This is conjecture, the social millennial conjecture. Like, bruh, just smooth it out. It was not going to be, I don't know exactly what they may have demanded of him to do, like to get on his podcast and what they were demanding of him to say. I feel like it would not have been that difficult. If you're trying to keep your street cred or whatever it is and not try to sell out, and you were not necessarily trying to be racist, quote unquote, but those statements were racist and Hebrew Israelite teaching can be considered racist and xenophobic. It can be considered that. Nation of Islam teachings can be considered that in this sort of political climate. Where we're at now with our society in 2020, they can be considered that. So him sort of not meaning to quote unquote be racist or say racist things or what have you, it's strange in light of what he said and what the subject matter was in that podcast and what that soundbite is. I feel like it would not have been that difficult to sit and try to clarify what he was saying. If he did misspeak, oops, I misspoke. This is really what I meant to say, or this is what I was getting at. Just, it's a podcast, it's live, it's in the moment. I was trying to form my thoughts in the most coherent way that I could have at that time, and it just came out wrong. It didn't come out. It came out rough and raw, not refined. I don't see that being something difficult for him to necessarily do. But that didn't happen. And his sort of smoothing out Facebook post is too little too late. And even then, it's not even an apology. It's just a unity, like, we are together in this, and we are, my Jewish brother, like, he's saying he's going to go to Israel and go for extra teaching and what have you. So it's very, very interesting, because when he spoke on the podcast and the soundbite, he was resolute in his understanding of what he was saying. Like, resolute. This is what it is, and this is how that, and this is how this. So we're going to see. Nick Cannon is in a very precarious position right now. This has put him in a very precarious position. I hope he gets out of it. I'm not necessarily gets out of it, but I hope he outlives it and is fine. Guy's doing his thing. He's got a great business career behind him, and hopefully he's got a great business career in front of him. I feel like for all of his savvy in business, that he should have figured out how to own Wild 'N Out and how to own some of his own IP, intellectual property, for those who don't know, as a lot of other black entertainers are moving to do. For all of the sort of quote unquote lack of credibility or maybe some hate out there for Tyler Perry and his films and so on, he understood real quick that he needed to protect his IP, all of his IP. He had contracts with Lionsgate to make a bunch of films. He understood in this kind of business shark, blood in the water, game, that you need to own your products. You cannot share ownership of your products. You cannot create products under the umbrella of another company or another corporation, because then they're going to own your product. You're essentially making a product for them to own. They're not making it themselves. And so he's got his Tyler Perry Studios and his production company, and he's doing his thing. And it's fire. It's a shame that Nick Cannon couldn't figure out a way. Maybe he was thinking about that. This guy's making millions and millions of dollars. These contracts are worth $13, $14, $15 million. I can understand. You're in it. The engine, the well-oiled machine is pumping away and chugging away, and you've been at this for more than a few years under this contract, and this is just, you're okay with the status quo. But now when it's all gone, what do you have left in your name? Viacom takes everything that you made, essentially, and it's theirs. Everything that you made under them and that you developed, you now don't have any control over once this contract is over. So, Nick Cannon, I know you probably don't listen to this podcast, but I hope you do. Social Millennial Podcast, gang, NYC, BX for life. You're going to make it through, man. You're going to do it. It's going to be okay. You're going to weather the storm. You're going to be able to do this. Just, you got to move. You got to move with caution. You've got to tread softly. In the words of Lee in Rush Hour 2, I think. Tread softly. Yeah. Yeah, fam. That's just what that is. Tread softly. Now, moving on to a more inspiring story was brought to my mind. I was reminded of it. A great woman, pioneer in journalism for African American women and for women at large. I want to highlight this native New Yorker highlight, Miss Melba Tolliver. Now, I'm highlighting Miss Melba Tolliver because of the idea of being prepared for the opportunity. I know I've been talking about themes on this podcast about loving each other, themes on being prepared. Our last podcast, talent versus learned skills. You know, I had another one of our previous podcasts talking about the hustle gene, and with something that Miss Tolliver said, that you don't only want to make sure that you're the first, you want to make sure that you're not the last. And there was something else that really struck me, what she had said. First and last, and it escapes me right now. But you don't want to just be the first at something. You don't, and not just be the first, but you don't just want to be the highest of something and then not think about legacy and not think about the moves that you're making that will affect the rest of the world. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what she was talking about. She talked about what your significance is, what your contribution is on the daily. It's not just about contributions in terms of your legacy and what you leave behind and how you're going to influence your craft or influence the people around you in the long run. But day by day, how are you making an impact in your life, in your world, with the people around you? What are you doing that is of significance to someone? It doesn't have to be a huge historical significance, but significance to someone. Are you building other people up? Are you loving other people? Are you loving on them? Are you making ways out of no ways? Are you opening doors for other people? Are you not deciding to be this harsh gatekeeper and trying to hoard fame, talent, money, etc.? Are you wanting to bless others as you've been blessed? And after you've been blessed with much, are you looking to be that point of significance for someone else that might look up to you to build them up? It's interesting because we all look up to someone. We all model what we do after someone in our lives, whether it's someone that we know personally or someone that's an acquaintance, that's been an acquaintance in our lives, or someone that we've observed from afar. You know, a lot of basketball. I feel like it's in every field. If you're an athlete, there are athletes that you model your game after. If you're a musician, there are players and other musicians that you model your drive after, that are your inspirations. And remember that when you do what you do in this world, the other people around you are looking to you the same way that you looked to your legends, the same way that you looked up to those in your life who you perceived to be the things that you want to be when you are at that stage. Miss Tolliver's still around. And for those who don't know Miss Tolliver, I know some of the old heads are going to know who she is, But though for those who do not know, Miss Melba Tolliver was a news anchor, a journalist for Eyewitness News. She became a big deal because during the strikes of AFTRA, for my union people, before SAG-AFTRA merged, they were separate. AFTRA went on strike. This was late 60s? Late 60s. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, April 1967. Yeah. She Miss Melba Tolliver was a secretary at ABC. She was not an anchor. She was not a broadcast journalist. And in fact, her training was in nursing. And she was working as a secretary at ABC. And that strike happened, and they needed someone to fill in for Marlene Sanders. And Miss Tolliver stepped up. They were like, put her on, let's go. So talk about being prepared for the opportunity, you know? I mean, she may not have been reciting or been in front of a mock camera every day trying to get it together, but she had that hustle gene. I'm sure that first day might have been nerve-wracking that she was on camera, but she pulled up and showed out. When it's time, when you're prepared for that opportunity, when you got the hustle gene, when you've got the talent, you're coming in guns blazing, you pull up. Even when you're scared, you pull up. That's that hustle gene. Because we're not always going to get it right. We're not always going to have or necessarily have a handle on the situation all of the time. But that hustle gene pushes us through. You know? We know we got the talent. We know we could do it. But that hustle gene stops us from being paralyzed by fear. And so Miss Tolliver, during that strike, it was AFTRA, for those who don't know, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, and the National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians were striking. There were strikes rolling. And she would fill in a few times and eventually become a full-time reporter and anchor at ABC for Eyewitness News. From 1967 to 1976. She ended up moving over to NBC, and she also moved over to News 12 Long Island. She was active all the way up to 1994. Now, part of what is a super big deal about Miss Tolliver is, if you go back, if I'm not mistaken, the tail of the tape, when she started filling in as an anchor, her hair was sort of straightened a bit in the style of that time. But later on, when she became a full-time anchor, broadcast journalist, she grew her natural hair out. And so it's interesting when a lot of people, at least these days, there is a certain faction of people that still exists that's like, you know, we've been good for a long, long time with the racial divide in media, etc. It was a big deal for Miss Tolliver to be on Eyewitness News and to be a broadcast journalist. Not just because she was black, but also because she was a woman. At that time, women only covered female stories, women's stories. And Miss Tolliver, in her time, was a pioneer in fighting for the ability to cover all stories, not just be relegated to women's stories. Now, her hair was one of the sort of it ended up catapulting Miss Tolliver into the news, because it was during President Nixon's daughter's marriage, essentially a presidential marriage, that Miss Tolliver was sent out on location to cover it. But at that time, she was wearing her natural hair. And when they found out that she had her natural hair going, they wanted her at ABC to put on a wig or to do something so that she would not be wearing her natural hair on the air. And Miss Tolliver recounts it. She said that, quote, she felt like the bad child, the bad kid in the principal's office. because she had done all the coverage that she was supposed to do. But once the executives found out that they saw the feeds and saw that she had her natural hair, they didn't air them. So in during the news broadcast, they'll go live on the scene. They didn't go. She was there filming her things, and they would not cut to her because her hair was natural, and she was wearing it natural, and it was a travesty. It ended up getting out and to the press about what was going on. They ended up keeping her off of the air until she with the ultimatum that she needs to change her hair, that she needs to straighten it the way that she had it before, or she needs to wear a wig. And because this story went out into the mainstream media about what's happening to her, the execs ended up caving, and she ended up getting behind that desk in front of the camera, grabbing that mic and broadcasting the news loud, black, and proud. Now, for women, huge triumph. For African Americans in this country, huge triumph. Right now, she's living in Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. And she's got a few books. She's very active in her community. Which she is most certainly an inspiration. She was living in Harlem. She has that hustle gene. She ended up going back as an adult student to college, because she just had a thirst for knowledge. She is a prime example of course, bigotry in media, not just in, filmmaking, but in media, in broadcast media. Bigotry, racism. That permeates up to this point. See, a lot of people don't understand that that it's still here. It may be veiled in certain things or in certain ways, or sort of individuals are learning how to communicate in certain ways that sort of get them what they want in the industry, as higher ups in the industry, without necessarily speaking or looking the same as it used to look. But it's out there. I'm not saying the entire industry is racist. I'm not saying the entire industry is bigoted. Not at all. That is not a thing that Social Millennial Podcast is claiming. It is people. People are people. My thought process. People are people, and they're going to continue to be people. There are some who are nuts. There are some who are not. There are some who are caring, compassionate, and there are others who are hateful. And then there are others, the tippity top, who it's really not about race. It's really not about sexuality. It's really not about gender. It's just about the green. And whoever's bringing in the most money is going to get the most play. So if it ends up being white boys and white girls that are bringing in the most money, then you're going to see white boys and white girls in all the movies. And it's sad, but it'd be like that. It's about the green, people. It's not necessarily about race, gender, sexuality, or religion at the highest heights. But I digress. She is a prime example. To be prepared for the opportunity to cultivate that hustle gene within yourself, to rise to the occasion, so that you can call on your talents and your abilities, and you won't be paralyzed by fear. And so the next time you maybe get this opportunity that you feel you may be out of your depth, or you've been doing something for so long and you should be getting the recognition that you deserve, you should be getting the play that you deserve, but it hasn't come for a long time, and then it finally comes and you're afraid, don't be afraid. You got this. You made it this far. You made it through, whether it's the school of hard knocks and the streets teaching you, or Ivy League schools teaching you. You made it this far. You're going to make it through. All of my writers, of color, you're going to make it through. All of my directors of color, you're going to make it through. You know, my same mantra for COVID. NYC, we're going to make it through. We're strong. We're NYC tough. This ain't the first time we had to go through some wildness. You feel me? We got this. You got this. If you're going to work during these COVID times and you're listening to this, you got this. If you're having to do online classes and it's tough because you're not a person who really learns very well outside of the classroom, you got this. If you're looking for that job and you're struggling with with sort of taking the leap or struggling with fear in terms of, do I go out and get a job and expose myself to COVID for the sake of being able to pay my rent? Or do I try to hold out? You're going to make it through this. You got this. All of my entertainment industry folks, my performers, my musicians, Broadway, that's gone dark. I know it's a tough time. I know a lot of you are not native New Yorkers. Let's keep it real, fam. We'll keep it real in the field. A lot of y'all are not New Yorkers. As much as y'all want to call yourselves native New Yorkers, you're not native New Yorkers. Y'all are transplants from other places. You know, we'll keep it real. I'm not talking brazy on your name. I'm just saying, New Yorkers, we got this. You know, so partner up with a native New Yorker. Start to observe what New York is. You feel me? Now, to help y'all out, I have a new song coming out. I got a new single during COVID times. It's called New York City Song, sort of my ode to New York City, trying to kind of remind us of who we are, that we are New York tough, that we are New York strong, remind us of all the things that make New York great that you can't find anywhere else. You know, hopefully you guys will bump it during the summer. You know, it's a great COVID-19 recovery song. We out here, gang, gang. But to all of my Broadway performers who's on lockdown and so on and so forth and traveled away and so on, you're going to make it through. I know it's tough, but you're going to make it. You know, might have to keep your head on a swivel, might have to do some of the things, but you'll make it. Broadway will come back again. I don't know how they could possibly make that work. I don't even have a guess to venture. I'm not going to venture to guess. I don't know how movie theaters are going to work. I don't know. I don't know, y'all. We've got these phases set up for reopening and so on, but we reopen, then we close up, or we reopen and half of it is closed. It's a whole thing. It's a cluster right now. It is a cluster right now, edge of your seats on some nonsense. I love that meme. It comes to mind right now, like whose go is it in Jumanji? Like, we're really in a game of Jumanji right now. But we're gonna make it, y'all. Love each other. Remember that people look up to you in the same way that you look up to others. So the things that you do are significant, even though you may feel like they're not, but they are. They're significant to someone. Excuse me. They are significant to someone. So remember that. And it's time for Rex. Recommendation. Wear your masks, y'all. How about that? Off the rip. Wear your masks, people, when y'all are indoors, and especially when y'all are inside of an enclosed area with mad heads. You know, you're on that line at the check cashing place at the CFSC. You online for the Western Union. You feel me? You online at Subway. You know, you're at the bank. Wear your mask when everybody is right up on you. You know? Wear it. You come outside, you know, follow the guidelines. New York City, we could not wear masks outside. You do with that what you will. But when y'all are inside, wear that mask, y'all. People's is dying out here. For real, for real. So off the rip, recommendations, wear the masks. Now, traditional recommendation, I just recently revisited a Sean Connery film that dropped what, in 2000? Yeah, released December 20th, 2000. Man, what a year. 2000, 1999 time. The Matrix, coming off The Matrix, Equilibrium. Oh man, what a time. I remember that. I remember The Matrix on VHS in 1999. Man, VHSs. I think I still have some VHSs. We'll talk about that on a nostalgia podcast at some point. But Rec, I just revisited Finding Forrester, and it 100% holds up. And y'all need to go see it. If y'all haven't seen it, for my young heads, my Gen Zers, I guess, I don't know, or my younger millennials, Finding Forrester is a classic film, classic drama. It's starring Sean Connery, Rob Brown, Anna Paquin. F. Murray Abraham is in it. Busta Rhymes is in it. I forgot he was in it. Matt Damon, Michael Pitt. So a bunch of heads is in this. It is about, it's a unique relationship develops between an eccentric, reclusive novelist and a young, amazingly gifted scholar athlete. After the novelist discovers that the young athlete is also an excellent writer and secretly takes him on as his protege, they develop an unlikely friendship. As they learn more about each other, they learn more about themselves, and ultimately, with the help of his new mentor, the basketball star must choose the right path. So, it's fire. It's fire. It seems like cookie cutter, but Sean Connery does his thing, and and Rob Brown does his thing in this. Like, they really do. The acting is great. The storyline is amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, watch it. I know, a lot of our entertainment is filled with a whole lot of snappy comedy and a whole lot of wham bam, thank you ma'am, flash bang boom. This movie is fire. It is a welcome respite to all of that nonsense, and very much so a hopeful movie, a movie that will give you hope. So watch it. Finding Forrester, it's pretty fire. I don't know if it's on Netflix right now. I don't think it is. This is a pretty old movie, but you should be able to find it somewhere. Finding Forrester was a good movie. It had reviews, like the reviews were fire everywhere. 7.3 on IMDb. You know, Google, 93% of users liked it. So check it out. It's fire. Sean Connery, before he was phoning it in, he got a little old. It happens. You make enough money, you kind of just start phoning stuff in, cashing in on your own name, But it is fire. Any other recs? Let's see. I had that one, but let me see if I can think of something off the top of my head. Off the dome, fam. I just remembered off the dome. Kevin Hart. Chocolate Drop. Oh, Kevin Hart Chocolate Drop. If y'all don't know about Chocolate Drop, y'all need to look it up. Go to YouTube. This is my other rec. Go to YouTube, type in Chocolate Dropper, and you're going to see. It's fire. Real rap raw. Cool 16 off the dome. Yo, it's fire. And he had like a little series, like 2 or 3 battles as this character, Chocolate Dropper. And he says the wildest stuff, but trying to be mad hard in these battles. There's one where he battles against T-Pain. Oh my gosh, y'all gotta see it. Just search Chocolate Dropper, Kevin Hart. So this is not like super young, like young Philly starting out Kevin Hart. This is like, he's already been on Comedy Central. He's already had his first or second special, Kevin Hart. But it's funny. Y'all gotta check it out. Chocolate Dropper, Droppa, chocolate. You'll just find a bunch of stuff on YouTube, a bunch of videos. Enjoy them, because comedy gold. All right, so those are my three recs. I hope that y'all enjoyed the time that we had, because I certainly enjoyed it. Whether you're listening to this in your car or at home or what have you, headphones, whatever. I have definitely enjoyed my time with this podcast, and it will continue. Fam, we're going to be on Twitter tomorrow. Big things, doing it. I know we've been talking about getting on Twitter for a minute. Right now, we are at Social Millennial Pod on Facebook and on Instagram. If y'all want to email us, thesocialmillennialpod@gmail.com. We're going to be getting our website soon. It's all in the works. There will be some social media exclusive content going on, social media exclusive giveaways going on. So y'all need to get on that. Follow us. Facebook. I know Facebook is kind of washed, but follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. We are not on TikTok. I'm not messing with TikTok. I could have talked about that today, but I'm not going to talk about what's going on with TikTok and China and all kinds of weird eavesdropping stuff going on that the American government is starting to hello. I think there's a country that already banned TikTok because of that, because of China and the fears of spying and getting your personal information. But we're not on TikTok. We're gonna be on Twitter tomorrow. Y'all, sound off. If you're listening to this on YouTube, we are on YouTube. These podcasts get uploaded to YouTube. Comment. Wherever you listen to your podcast, comment. Give me a star. Give me a like. Give me an upvote. Give me a like or even a dislike. If y'all don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know. Comment. Let me know what y'all like about this podcast. Let me know what y'all like about the episodes. Let me know what y'all don't like. Where y'all disagree. This is a conversation. I'll throw it to y'all. What do y'all think about Nick Cannon? What do y'all think about opportunity and talent versus learned skills? What do y'all think about the hustle gene? What do y'all think about NYC, BX, Maybe y'all want to rep y'all city in the comments. Rep it. We're here for it. We read the comments. We listen to y'all. So by all means, sound off. Sound off. Like dude be saying, hook off, yo, hook. Nah, sound off. Wherever y'all listen to this podcast, we're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We're on radio. Just let us know. You feel me? We really want to hear from you. This is a community that we want to build. So let's hear from y'all, all right? We do some crazy memes on Instagram. Check us out. It's pretty funny. I hope to make it through the week and to see y'all and that y'all could hear from me. Everybody under the sound of my voice, because stuff is wild. We gonna see what this school stuff is what's going on with school and the school year coming and new things opening up and jobs and eviction, because eviction, Lord knows, here in NYC it's getting wild. That sort of lockdown on landlords being able to evict people, it's gonna lift soon, because Cuomo hasn't talked about continuing it. We're living in some crazy uncertain times, fam. Now, I hope to see y'all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Sound off. Let us know. Give us a like. Give us a star. Give us a review. This has been the Social Money Podcast. Peace.